All right, Athlete Builder, we're back at it. We have Jeff Gum in today. Lots of things to talk about, lots of things to go over. I'm looking forward to hearing his story and his lessons. There's going to be a lot to go to sift through here. So how do we even get here? And I think if you've been watching or listening to the show, I went through David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, and I remembered that he referenced Kenny Bigby. And Kenny Bigby, works and lives in my town in Plainfield where the gym is at. So I went through there and I thought, well, I should probably go talk to Kenny to see what he's about, see if I can have him on the show. And he came on, and three things about Kenny: lots of energy, set the record for most F-bombs in the show, but also had lots of knowledge, right? And then he referenced Bill Brown, the teammate, SEAL team, or Boat Crew 2 out there when he was going through BUD/S. And he said, you should talk to him. I remember Bill Brown being referenced in Goggins' book. He called him the White David Goggins. So Kenny connected me with Bill and talked to him. He, great story there. If you didn't catch the episode, kind of like real challenges growing up, been arrested. And then as he said, the Navy saved his life. So, went Special Forces. Now he's an attorney out on the East Coast, making an impact professionally and helps out a lot with different foundations. And then he introduced me to Jeff Gum because I was looking on Bill Brown's site because he's doing that Navy, New York City SEAL swim. And I saw Sunga. Am I saying that right? Sunga Life. I saw they're one of the sponsors for swimwear, and all those guys are wearing next to nothing when they're in the water. So I thought, well, what's that all about? And it turns out this Jeff Gum guy, he runs that. He founded that. Another teams guy. So I called up Bill or emailed Bill and said, hey, Bill, can you connect me with Jeff? I looked him up. Looks like he more great stories and more great information. So that's who we have on today. A little bit about Jeff. Looks like the all-American kid growing up, grew up on a farm, played almost every sport, was a distance runner, but also into powerlifting, two complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Goes to college, ends up in the Navy, then went Special Forces. 10 years later, he gets out. Now he's continuing to make an impact professionally outside of the military, but still helping military folks. And he's 40. So if the 40s under 40 or the who's who, those kind of folks, that's who we have on here today. So Jeff Gum, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Jim. Great to be on. It's an honor.
Awesome. Lots of things to talk about, and we can go a number of different directions. But for those that are playing along at home, just a little bit of background. Played basketball, soccer, track, cross country, and skiing through school, but also into powerlifting, Australian rules, football. So talk about, I want to be a distance runner. I'm running track, but I'm also even said you're still holding a couple of the school records in the main lift. So then you're, a strength athlete as well. Those are complete opposite ends of the spectrum. How do you get your head around that, or your identity around that growing up? How does that happen?
Yeah, I was always naturally more of a endurance runner, and I always prided myself on being able to play the whole game in soccer and basketball and whatever sport I was doing. I never wanted to come out, and I would also, lift for an hour or two every day, and then have a 2-hour practice. Just try to condition myself really well and make myself strong. I ended up, my parents got me into weightlifting at the YMCA in like sixth grade. And honestly, probably a lot of things I know today are still from that foundation. But then my sophomore year playing basketball, I tore my ACL and was stuck in a brace. Was just absolutely miserable. Went from playing, 1 to 2 sports every season to not being able to work out, not being able to do much. I would just rehab for like 4 or 5 times a day. I would just be doing leg raises, everything I could do to try to get my legs strong. I went back, finished the season with a brace, and I started training at a gym called the Body Factory, and they had a powerlifting room in the back. Guys are lifting with chains, bands, all this different stuff. Ended up having some of the greatest powerlifters ever. The first person to bench 900 and 1,000 in competition. I'd be spotting him at times as like a 16 or 17-year-old. And then I eventually was like, you know what, I'm going to join this and try to make myself really my legs so strong that I never injure them again, and started powerlifting. Eventually, squatted 500 in competition, and still hold for my high school the squat, the deadlift, and the total record in weight classes where people are normally 5'5" or something, because they can put on a lot more muscle and go half the range of motion that I would go. I was like 6'1", 165 pounds, but squatting 500. So, but it let me show what was possible as well when you train really hard and you're dedicated.
Mm. There's a number of things to even dive into right there. What sport were you playing when you blew out your knee?
Yeah, I was playing basketball, and it was a scrimmage against Pocono Mountain, maybe maybe like the scrimmage before the season starts, and it was a fast break. We were flying in, we were going down. Someone pulled up and shot a jump shot, and it came back like a line drive, and I jumped up like quickly, caught it with one hand, but got hit in the air and kind of like spun in the air. One leg went out into a straddle and the other one twisted underneath it, and people fell on top of it, and I tore my MCL and ACL and a little bit of cartilage. And I remember like laying there just going, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Like, or you're going to look really weak or whatever. Something I was thinking. I was like, just did everything to not, I was like, I think I was 15 or 15 at the time.
Gotcha.
And then yeah.
The you probably wouldn't notice, but a couple of weeks ago we had I call it the Athlete Builder Summit, and I had 6 speakers from the podcast on to come to the gym, and we had a all-day workshop. And one of the guys, this Dr. Klutwijk, is a knee doctor, and he was the knee doctor for 25 years for the Colts, Indianapolis Colts, talking about ACLs, MCLs, etc. And he's basically pointing out there's basically 2 ways people tear, or reasons. One is trauma, that you get hit in a bad way, which sounds kind of like what you did, or you land and the trauma's been building up over years, and that was just simply the final straw. And when you play a sport like he would describe, like basketball, volleyball, soccer, where there's lots of running and change of direction, it's great for your body in a lot of ways. It builds up your quad strength, because when you sprint, that's mostly quad. But the hamstrings and glutes are underdeveloped, or cores are typically, of these athletes, they don't lift much, and they're underdeveloped, which then exponentially increases the amount, or the chances of getting hurt. So all that combined, you're doing all these sports where you're running a lot, and then there's trauma. It kind of makes sense on why that happens. And if you're saying you're playing 2 sports at once, now you're doing a high level of volume as a younger athlete. So I would say, were you already lifting quite a bit in high school? Because you said you started in 6th grade, right?
Yeah, I was lifting quite a bit. Not at the level I was when I began powerlifting. I wasn't squatting a ton. I was definitely doing some leg press and leg extensions and different things. For me, my knees have been really good, and I think the lifting I did strengthened them. I've also seen things where people that, sometimes the pounding can do damage to your body, but sometimes it can make it stronger as well. I think I've probably had both happen to me. I know
Sure.
they've done, they'll look at athletes' ligaments, and their ACLs will be twice the size of non-athletes, because of, it's not just your muscles that can build and get stronger, but your ligaments and your tendons, and even your discs, as long as they don't get pounded so much that they get, smashed completely down. I think that's what kind of happened. I was fast roping on a roof in the Middle East and herniated my L5S1, had to get surgery and things on that. But there's also studies that discs on athletes are bigger as well and more robust. So it all kind of can depend.
Sure. The ligaments and tendons, that's not coming from heavy weight. That's coming from heavy amounts of reps. So very, very lightweight, if any, like your body weight, tons and tons of those reps. So when I would coach these strongmen athletes, people are always worried about their low back getting hurt, but one of the most common injuries was their biceps getting torn because they're lifting up load, and they'll try to curl a little bit invariably, and then next thing you know, their bicep tears because that small muscle group shouldn't be picking up those big loads. So what we'll have them do is do sets of 100 curls with just an empty barbell or even lighter, so you can get tons and tons of reps to build up those ligaments and tendons. And then to your point, it's the same deal with the bones and the bone structure, right? So when you're lifting, your bones, if you're holding weight on your back, that spine is holding the weight. Those vertebrae are holding the weight, and they have to get denser to hold the weight. So that's going to be a piece that, yeah, you're right, you're lifting, but it's not just your muscles getting bigger, it's everything else getting bigger too, and stronger, thicker, denser, like you said.
Yeah, one of my favorite lifts now is actually the belt squat, because it puts all the weight on your hips, and having, had a spine surgery and injury already, I just, I'll do some squatting with very light weight. I'll also do a thing, it's kind of like a joke, call it the filthy 50, where I'll just do, 50 reps with the bar, like shoulder raise, like strict press, 50 reps curling, put a sandbag on my back, 50 reps lunging, 50 calories on the assault bike, 50, just do like 50 of 12 different exercises. And yeah, I guess it just strengthens kind of everything, but also builds endurance at the same time. So I'll have days where I'll do more strength and days I'll do more endurance like that.
Sure. When you're used to competing so much and then you get the setback with an injury, I would imagine if you're competing all the time, then a good chunk of your identity is, hey, I'm an athlete. I compete. My team counts on me. We win, right? I'm trying to beat people. Yeah. Our teams are trying to beat other teams. How did you process and learn to cope and handle that blow to your, not only your body, but also your identity, because you can't compete anymore?
As a 16-year-old, it was extremely painful, and I just had pure frustration and like fury running through my veins. I would be so mad, and I just used it as fuel to like train and train and train. And after the 6 weeks, all of a sudden my MCL had healed on its own, and my knee felt pretty good. It still had the torn ACL, because the doctor said, we want your MCL to heal on its own, and then build up your muscle so that you're better when we do the ACL surgery. It'll heal much better. And so did all that, and then I was like running around on the court, maybe at like halftime or after the game, and shooting. And I was like, you know what? I feel like I can play. And I was like, hey, let me go back and finish the season. I have, like maybe 7 or 8 games left. And he's like, okay, we can put a brace on you that can act as your ACL, and then finish the season, and we'll do the surgery. And I went out and did that. But the coach, because I hadn't played, he would hardly play me then. So I went from being a starter to getting put in for like the last few minutes of the game. And and the fury and anger went to a whole nother level. And I'd go in. I remember I went in against my rival. I literally stole the ball, went up, scored, like got another pass, hit a 3, and then coming up the court again, I hit the ball away, and I'm like, I'm getting this ball, and I like chased after it as hard as I could, and I went to stop. I wasn't going to get it, and I went to stop, but I didn't have like my stopping ability, wearing the brace and not having the ACL, and I literally ran into the wall at full speed, head first, and so they thought I like had a concussion. I kind of felt fine. I didn't even want to come out. I ran full speed into a concrete wall, but after that, I'm like, screw this. I was just like, I'm done for the season. Just give me the surgery. I was like mad at the coach, mad at the world, and just used it as fuel to get stronger. And after I had the surgery, I I I mean, it was I've had several surgeries now, but that was painful. And they cut the middle third of your patella out, used that as a graft. But I actually went back and was able to kind of start playing at 3 months. I'm running around, jogging kind of at 2 months. Um, never wore a brace. I'd go see the doctor, and I remember seeing his notes like maybe even a year later when I was getting a waiver for an ROTC scholarship. He's like, "Yeah, Jeff is I'm like basically trying to release him to do these sports and everything, but he's been doing them for months already." And I tried to give him a brace to wear, but he's already been doing it without the brace, and he doesn't want to wear it. So I yeah, I basically started playing. I was playing maybe basketball 3.5 months after the ACL surgery. I was playing with friends, felt good. I had a bunch of atrophy in my thigh, so I started lifting really just all the time, very lightweight at first. Maybe it was like the bar, then I'd go to 55 pounds, then I went to 70 pounds, then I just all of a sudden I'm like repping out 225 like it's nothing, and then got into the powerlifting. Next thing I'm repping out 315, um, and competing in IPA championships, squatting 500, breaking all the. And I was just like, I want to make my legs so strong and have myself in control that a coach can't do this to me again.
Gotcha, man. So it's pretty safe to say that when you're going to PT afterwards, they give you homework,
Yeah.
and they'll say do this 1 or 2 times a day, and if you're like any other really competitive athlete, you're doing it 8 to 10 times a day
Yeah, exactly. I would just do it all day.
because you have the other 24 hours. Like you might as well get some stuff done, and then adding the strength training. Sometimes it's for building power or building speed or just building overall strength, but also it's just building overall body armor and resilience. Like you don't need to do a ton of curls to be that great in football, but when
Hmm.
you get hit in your arm and it's by someone that's wearing a helmet, it's good to have mass there to absorb the impact. So doing some curls, really helps you out quite a bit. Plus they're just, a ton of fun. But that whole resilience piece, right? Like, hey, I had this setback. I don't want this to happen again. And people can have built-in resilience, but I don't know that people really have it at a higher level unless they've been hurt in some way, mentally or physically or both. And it usually takes some kind of pain and adversity to say, hey, you know what? I don't want to feel that anymore. I want to come back and make sure I'm good to go next time.
Yeah, it's actually what I wrote about on my college applications and ROTC applications. The theme was whatever doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And what me going through that these setbacks, the injury, uh, having the surgery, and coming back and being stronger, and being like the fastest distance runner in the school, and the strongest weightlifter, being able to do all these. I'm like, it goes really well with the theme. Whatever doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And then it's probably definitely I something I took into SEAL training, and even though I wasn't like powerlifting by the time I got to that, I was trying to do more kind of just functional lifting. And you don't have to be the strongest powerlifter in buds, but you got to be able to lift a log hundreds and thousands of times,
Right.
and also become a good swimmer, and all these things, be able to lunge for miles with weight. So I kind of took and then I went into martial arts as well. Started doing Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, wrestling. I trained with all these guys who went into the UFC. It was kind of a fun time to be in mixed martial arts like that, because I literally knew everyone in the city who could like beat me up, and they would do it on a daily basis. So it was uh, it was fun, and they were like, you should do a fight. I did some amateur Muay Thai fights and jiu-jitsu tournaments. I didn't want to risk getting hurt doing an MMA fight right before I was leaving for buds and everything. But it was an awesome awesome experience, and just getting beat up all the time definitely helped prepare me for buds too, because it's almost like it's a grind. It's a
Right.
grind, and you're kind of getting beat up every day.
The Some are philosophies that people seem to have without much intelligence, and they'll usually start off their philosophy or their thoughts with "I feel that" or "I think," and I'm like, well, what do you really know? What do you really know? So some things I have to fight against and swim upstream are, I hear parents saying, "Well, I don't want my kid to get too bulky." And I think there's a couple of misconceptions there. One is that they're not aware enough that it takes quite a bit of work to get bulky, and that kids probably, or even they themselves, are not good enough to get bulky. They're not going to eat enough and lift enough to get bulky. Two, I don't see them. They're not going to get those results so quickly. Everyone thinks they're getting quick results. The Amazon click results. It's not like that either. It takes a while to get that big. And there's plenty of people that can squat 3, 4, 500 that look like just regular folks that are just kind of strong. They're
Yeah.
not. They're not
Yeah.
huge ass motherfuckers. The last one though, I don't want to be bulky. I don't want to be too tight. For my sport. I'm like, all these things could happen. You can get too big. You can get too tight, but it doesn't happen in one day. You see yourself progressing. I'm too big now, or I'm too slow now, or I'm too tight now. Well, it didn't happen one day. You're not too fat now. You're not too thin now either in one day. So you're going to be seeing it change. So once you're starting to progress in an area you don't want, just adjust. But what do you say to the parents or the kids that say, you were a distance runner. You ran track, soccer, basketball. Those are all, hey, let's be lean and wiry kind of deal. And
Yeah.
you said, I'm one of the best athletes out here on the court and on the field because I'm one of the stronger ones. What do you say to parents and kids that say, I don't want to lift so much because it's going to hurt my sport? What do you say to that?
Oh, it's such a common misconception. Uh, I mean, I lifted for 2 hours or more every day for 2, 3 years, and my legs were so unbelievably strong. And anytime there would be, I had so much confidence in my body too. If there would be a 50-50 ball, I always said, I'm getting that first. And if I don't, I'm kicking through the ball and winning it. There was times I just went shin to shin, and the person I hit 100% of the time, we'd like kick shin to shin. They needed to get taken off the field 100% of the time. I might run around with a limp for 30 seconds, and then I could run it off and be able to just keep playing. And it was because my legs and everything was just really, I mean, I also made sure I had good shin guards, but I could just run around. The confidence you have to win every 50-50 ball is priceless as an athlete. And as like a 6 foot like one guy on my basketball team, I had two guys who were 6'8",
Hmm.
and I would ragdoll them. They I would ragdoll them and embarrass them. And there was times they would try to fight me, and I'd like take them down on the court and practice and stuff. The coaches would pull us apart. I was like Dennis Rodman. I could like wrap someone in my hand, get around them, like kind of hook their arm, get around them, get the rebound, um, just frustrate them. Nobody could ever get position on me because my legs were so strong, but I was more functional and fast and everything too because I had this like a smaller, more wiry build. And it's funny. There's been kind of a phenomenon now. I don't even like a thing on TikTok and different stuff now. Somebody said it to me. One of my workouts that was on social media. They were like, "Oh, he's got a sleeper build." I was like, kind of thought it was a bad thing at first. I had to Google what it was, and it's, I guess, if someone has like a oversized t-shirt or clothes and they don't look very big, but then they take it off and it's like, or they like rep out a bunch of like heavy weight. They're, oh, it's a sleeper build. I'm like, oh, that's a good thing. Okay, good. But I guess you could say I kind of had a sleeper build where I was, I would do competitions at 165, once weight might weigh 170, but I was 6'1", but I was still strong. I was still stronger than guys that were 220, and because of how much I trained and dedicated to that.
There's so much to that. Strength cures a lot of sins, and everyone knows who the strongest kid is on the court or on the field, and it's a huge base, and it really sets people apart. And then once you're super strong, you leverage that piece to become super fast and super powerful, because that's even more important in sports than strength alone. The power and the speed is even more. But if you have the strength already there, the ability to build speed and power is so easy. If you follow, wrestling, I'm a Dan Gable guy, and how intense he
Nice.
is. And I read
Yeah.
both his biographies, and I mean, one of his guys just had it in his head that he didn't feel right mentally uh, unless he knocked out his 500 push-ups every day. Like every day, just I'm gonna do 500 just so I can start my day, and then I'll go do my normal training, etc. So that guy, he wins an Olympic gold. His athlete wins an Olympic gold, and the day of the gold medal event, he still did his 500 push-ups. The day he's going head to head with this guy, he still does 500 push-ups. So
Did
he
you
could
see?
so he could be
Did you
right.
see? Yeah. Did you see the year AJ Ferrari won the he won as like a freshman. He won the 198-pound um, wrestling for, where was he? Oklahoma State. Yeah,
I don't know.
it was Oklahoma.
I know. I've heard the name. I don't know much
Yeah,
about who or what.
he was on. Yeah, he was deadlifting 650 the day
Mm,
before, just like
right?
repping out 650 deadlift or something, and then he goes in. People are like, oh, he's going to be hurt. He's going to be tired. All this stuff, and then he goes out and just dominates everyone. It's like when your body is. People say overtraining, and it can be a thing, but if you get your body so unbelievably conditioned. And listen to it and know yourself, you can go out. And that was I going to, I went to like numerous basketball camps every summer, and one of the coaches talking to us, I think he had coached at Lehigh. They had some really big strong center that could just dominate the rebounds and defense, and forget his name, but they were like, he lifts every 2 hours every single day, and people say it'll mess up your shot or mess you up before the game, and and but it didn't mess him up because he trained it every day. So after that, I started lifting every single day and took that to heart. I'll say one thing: probably don't squat super heavy and like burn out your legs before games. I definitely did that in some summer league basketball games, and I'd be on the court and my quads would be cramping. I was like, okay, maybe there is something you shouldn't do. You can lift without like destroying your legs before a game, especially squatting like that, and then you're just running up and down the court. Yeah, I was feeling it, but
Well, that's the thing. You then have knowledge, right?
yeah.
So you can read all the textbooks on how to lift. You can
Hmm.
watch what others people do, and then you can look at your sets and reps: 5x5, 8x3, 10x2, blah blah blah. Well, then you have to ask the athlete, how do you feel? Like, I could change your
Hmm.
your macros, but I'm asking you, how do you feel? Are you lethargic? Do you have more energy, less energy? So the coaches are trying to put in a stimulus, make it a
Yeah.
change, and then how does your body react? And your body at 18 is going to react a lot differently than your body at 40. So
Yeah.
then, at least if you have some kind of journal or some way to keep records, and then you have data, because we improve what we measure, right? So if you have some data, hey, I squatted on this day and it was heavy, my legs were kind of
Hmm.
fucked later. So I can
Yep.
still squat and either keep it light or just do my squat day the day before, which is fine. But then at least then hey, this is what happened. I have results. It happened 2 times in a row, 3 times is a trend. So then you can make an adjustment, but don't just guess. Uh,
Yeah. At the time, I had a very strict, day one would be maybe it would be like a squat, a bunch of leg stuff. Day two with chains and bands and all these things, and really go to failure. Day two would be more of a leg recovery day, and we would do a lot of sled pull, some different auxiliary lifts with that. I think day three day three might be a it was kind of following the old West Side Barbell plan. Then the next one would be like benching with like chains and different things, and kind of similar. It would repeat, but would be a little different then, into like an 8 or 9 day plan. And I'd say days where you're going to have a game, maybe don't go to failure and make it a little bit of an all around workout. You don't have to follow that crush your leg day, maybe it'd be something more like that filthy 50 where I'll do maybe 50 push-ups, 50 shoulder raises, 50 curls, 50, like hit the whole body, let yourself get that, but don't have it be where any part of your body is. So I remember actually doing it one time. I hit my arms so unbelievably hard, and then my biceps were like even cramping on the court and everything. I was like, shoot, this is definitely messing up my shot a little bit, but yeah.
But
So
that's
just
when you go out and you smash yourself. It wasn't like you were just doing a normal workout. So
yeah,
plus, if you're a young dude, you're like, oh man, let's just keep going. Let's get this huge pump. Or hey, this
yeah.
girl just walked in. Let's just keep repping it out here because so she can watch, right?
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's all about learning. Sometimes it's, smarter, not harder, and you can still get you can get out a lot out of like lighter days too. You're still getting
For
the
sure.
muscle growth and everything.
There's also plenty to be said for, you don't really get any bigger or stronger decently when you're lifting that day. You're tearing
Hmm.
things down. Your growth happens when you get home and that night when you're sleeping and when you're resting. So, deloading every 13 weeks, 4 times a year, you're going to get stronger that way just by doing a little bit less, or deloading a little bit before a major event coming up. You're actually going to get better. So, having that knowledge that, hey, when I took some time off, I actually got better. That is a piece of the puzzle. It's as well, that recovery piece. So you said you want ROTC, so like going right into college, and you went to a school in Florida. So you went to school right in college with ROTC. So you want to be in the military essentially like right away, right?
Yeah, it was actually something another gift from tearing my ACL. I was stuck in a brace, going crazy. Uh, talking about that frustration that I had when I was used to playing 1 to 2 sports every season, being very busy, to stuck in a brace, and I'm just like, you know, AOL Instant Messenger had come out, like chatting with some friends a little bit, and then I'm trying to be like, all right, I need the biggest challenge in order to be fulfilled. What's the biggest challenge out there? And I'm like doing different research, and it's like, oh, being a Navy SEAL and doing Hell Week. So I became kind of obsessed with being a SEAL, um, and then I was like, all right, I can enlist, but I had been the only athlete in my high school that took all advanced classes as well. So I kind of felt like I should go to college and get the education. My parents were really pushing that too, and so I started looking at Naval Academy and different things. But then I saw the experience of the Naval Academy, just like marching around, cleaning toilets, doing this different stuff, and then I found out about ROTC, and University of Florida had a had a Navy SEAL like club, and for their ROTC program, I started looking at that. Talked to my cousins who lived in Florida. I was living in Pennsylvania, and I was like, hey, I want to check out University of Florida and University of Miami. Those were the ones I knew at the time. And they're like, hey, we went to UCF. It's an amazing school. We're in Orlando. If you're coming out of state, it's going to make sense to have some family in town. They were 10 and 12 years older than me. So I was like, oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I went down, visited them, toured UCF, got accepted. Um, they only had an Army ROTC program. So I actually got into Army ROTC. First, I'm like, okay, I'll do Rangers and Special Forces instead of the SEAL teams. It's probably the same. I had recruiters tell me it was the same. And then after I went through, did the Ranger Challenge, loved it. Uh, got Superior Cadet of the Year. Went to Airborne School as a cadet, but I got to Airborne School, and all my best friends there, they all had long hair and sideburns, and they didn't march, and they didn't say yes sir, no sir, and they had all just graduated basic underwater demolition SEAL training, and I was like, all right, I think there is a little bit of a difference. I can just tell. They're like, come on. They're like, you don't want to be marching around here in Georgia. You want to come out to San Diego, where we have, where we have buds and everything, and we do diving, we do all this Halo. all this stuff. And I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna go. I think I was right the first time when I said the Navy SEALs and Hell Week and everything. So I got out of ROTC after graduating college. I enlisted to go. They told me, you want to enlist so you could be a sniper, you can be a breacher, machine gunner, all the really cool parts about being a SEAL. You can always do OCS and be an officer afterwards. And half the guys in the SEAL teams have degrees anyway. And so, yeah, that's what set me on the path from there. Just randomly, the one week I ended up at the month I ended up at airborne school, the class had just graduated. It set me on a whole new course. I'm still really close friends with a bunch of the guys that I was in airborne school with. And even one of the guys who was the LPO of that Buds class ended up being one of my instructors like 4 years later and put me through SEAL training. So
Dang.
a lot of crazy coincidences with that. Yeah.
Would you say, like, initially the draw was the physical and mental challenge and the getting through Buds? Or was it, hey, I want to get through Buds, and then I want to be an operator, I want to deploy, and I want to kill bad guys and do all sorts of cool. Because that's like, you know, if you listen to most people, that's like 95% of the job. Only like 5% is that initial training phase.
Oh, and being a SEAL is awesome and fun compared to the like shitty training you have to go through that makes everyone quit. But for me, the draw initially, as a 16-year-old, I wanted to test myself. I wanted to go through Hell Week. I wanted to get surf tortured. I wanted to become like amazing in the water, have to do these, like, you know, at the time as a 16-year-old, swimming 2 miles in the ocean sounded really tough. And even having to do a 3.5 nautical mile ocean swim, 5.5 nautical mile ocean swim, running with boats on your heads, hardly sleeping, the challenge sounded amazing. That's what I really wanted to do. Also, you know, watching movies and seeing bad stuff happen to people all the time and them not being able to do anything. I'm like, all right, I want to be able to learn all these skills, fighting, shooting guns, blowing stuff up, that I can always protect my friends and family and people you love. And so I was just kind of became obsessed with being a SEAL. And then 2 years later, 9/11 happened when I was a senior in high school, and it just reaffirmed it 100-fold. Now I wanted to go be a SEAL, to go hunt the most evil people in the world, make sure 9/11 doesn't happen again. And so it became for a different, more, it already had been drifting that way as I kept obsessing about the SEALs and learning more and watching videos, watching that 234 documentary on the Discovery Channel. But then after 9/11, it became, you know, less selfish reasons for being a SEAL.
Sure. When I talk with athletes and they come to the gym, and it might just be a soccer mom or soccer dad, and they're coming in and they want to get better, and I ask them, why are you here? And they'll have a couple of reasons, and I'll ask them, well, why is that important, and why is that important? Then the real reasons start coming out. Well, I also tell them, and I'm not sure, I don't know, and I'm guilty of not doing this as well, but when I have a reason for doing something that's important, 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months later, that reason's probably there, but there could be some new reasons that it's also important. I have some new whys of why I want to do those things, and those are as important as well. And if you can write those down somewhere and just, hey, here are a list of all my whys, and it's a growing list. When you know that the next day is going to be shit, why don't I read these 10, 12 whys again, just to reinforce in my psyche and my subconscious and my identity, hey, I'm going through shit because of this, right? So having that list grow makes it even more powerful. So it's not just I want to be this cool, badass 16-year-old like every other guy wants to be, right? But now it's like, oh man, this is part of my country getting attacked. This is part of protecting my family. I'm serving. There's a higher purpose. There's a calling now. Now you're really dialed in, and it makes it easier not to quit. Wouldn't you say?
So much easier. And you know, when you have your why, it doesn't matter what the how is. And there was I mean, I had so many reasons. I was going to literally die before I ever rang that bell or quit. Um, even there's reasons like I just mentioned. It was a means to be able to go hunt the most evil people in the world and be able to be fulfilled. But there were some very simple reasons too. There was no way I was ever going to go back to my family after being obsessed with being a SEAL since I was 16. Now I was in training at 23. I was never going to go back to my mom or sister or my college friends and be like, oh yeah, that thing I obsessed about all these years, I just quit and rang the bell. Um,
Mm.
there was no way. It was just literally physically impossible. It, I and another lesson is be careful what you wish for, because I wanted it for the challenge. I got so much more than what Hell Week and all these challenges were. Normally, you do buds and it's like 7 log PTs, whatever. I ended up having to do 17 log PTs.
Mm.
Um, I got I got everything was going great in my first buds class, 270, and all of a sudden Friday before Hell Week I started being sick. You're living in the barracks, you're getting surf tortured out in the water. There's rainstorms all the time. This sludge from Tijuana washes in there, goes into the San Diego Ocean and Bay, and you're spending a lot of time in there. A lot of people get viral gastroenteritis, and then it like spreads through the barracks as well. So Friday morning before Hell Week, I get really sick. I start feeling, yeah, just our our mentor is talking to us. I have to just walk out and start throwing up like repeatedly. Um,
Mm.
you never want to go to medical either as a bud student, but when I couldn't even. It was the only time in my life I've been so thirsty, drinking water and just immediately throwing up. Drinking water, I'm so thirsty, throwing up right away. And so I go to medical, and they go to put IVs in me, and they're just my veins are just rolling. They're not even taking the IVs. Uh, Finally, third try, they get the IV in me. I'm like, geez, just feeling miserable, getting stuck with needles, and then take that the next day. Um, Finally, able to keep some fluids down, um, and then finally, like Sunday, I'm able to start keeping some food down and everything. But I had been super dehydrated, lost a ton of nutrients. I probably lost 10 or 15 pounds, but I had just crushed first phase, and didn't fail a single thing. All the runs, all the swims, all the O courses. You just have to pass one to get of each to be able to go to buds, and so, I mean, to be able to go into Hell Week. I'm like, instructors are like, hey, you've been really sick. Are you going to get rolled? I'm like, absolutely not. I'm doing Hell Week now. Like, I don't want to start all the way over. So I go into Hell Week, and the first day starts mostly good for me. It was cold at times. There was mass exodus at multiple times. We had like 25 people quit during Steel Pier. The strongest guy in our class got up and quit first. He kind of looked like Ivan Drago, this big, super strong guy. He actually had gone to actually you went to Purdue. He was a Purdue engineer. Smart, strong, badass guy, but got cold during Steel Pier, and like 24 people see him quit, and they follow him, and mass exodus. Go to go to the next thing. You're just running around everywhere with the boats on your heads. Now you're doing a log PT. And then it was like Monday. I think I started feeling these cramps happening in my thighs as we're running with the boats. And I basically just bit down as hard as I could and ran through the cramps in my quads. The same type of cramps where like a football player will be on a field and get like they'll cramp up and get carried off the field. I had to like run with boats on my heads, and then we had back-to-back 4 mile timed runs, and my legs were just shot. I might have been in like the last 20 or something. Probably the last like 12 guys like quit. Then we like run it again. All right, you guys all suck. Run again. And I'm like trying to run, and my legs are like kind of not working. I'm like, what's happening? And
Out
I
of water.
start getting I start getting like chits and different things given to me, like warning me that my performance is not making it. We get to like, we do base tour, we run boats all nights, um, just sprinting all over the place. It's probably one of the most challenging things we do. And running all night, I fall out from under the boats. I'm getting more warnings. We're getting surf tortured. And then Tuesday, um, go and do all of Tuesday, similar things. And then they end up performing, maybe like 2 or 3 guys get performance dropped around that time. I get a warning. I'm like, hey, I don't know what's wrong with me, but you could like literally take me out and surf torture me for the rest of the week. I'll do anything to stay here. And they're like, we can't do that. They send me back to, it's kind of like the quitter room. Everyone else that's left made it through Hell Week. I'm like, hey, I need to go medical. I'm not accepting this. Something's wrong with me. I go to medical. I thought I had a thing, possibly SIPE, because I was feeling like I couldn't breathe very well either. Pulmonary edema pretty much only happens to people that get like climb Mount Everest. It's called HAPE, high altitude pulmonary edema. And BUD students get it. It's called swimmer-induced pulmonary edema. I thought maybe I had that. I was trying to find what was wrong, but my pulse ox was still high enough. I was like, they put me on a cycling machine, trying to go fast. My legs are hardly working, but my blood oxygen was not that low. So they're like, you're fine. I refused to go back to just went to my barracks. I'm like, I'm not going to that quitter room. We had a meeting with the senior chief, who he was meeting with like 5 people. Some quit that day. Some were performance dropped from that Tuesday. Like mostly everyone quit Sunday and Monday. Tuesday, maybe a few people, and then rare for it to happen after that. So there's only a few of us, and everyone's in their utility kind of uniform. I thought that was like the quitter uniform. I said when I saw people walking around in that, I was never going to put that on. I wore my dress blues, and was like, he's like giving everyone their orders to go to XDiv. And I was like, hey, I'm like, I talked to you after. He's like, yeah. Everyone else leaves. I go, hey, I'm 23. I have a college degree. I never failed a single thing this whole time. All these like BUD students, and they didn't pass a single run, didn't pass a single swim, didn't pass a single O course. They all get another chance to go back. They got rolled. I go, I just got really sick before Hell Week. I need to just get healthy, figure out what's, get healthy, go into the next class. I go, I'll do anything to stay here. You can take away my 40 grand bonus. You can take away my pay for the rest of BUDs. I will literally do anything to stay in this training. I did not want to go to like the fleet and have to, wait a year or 2 to come back, or possibly never come back. I was like, I just couldn't bear it. And he's like, wow, you're the first person to ever walk in here and want to do this again after having this happen. He goes, I'm going to talk to the instructors. He went and talked to them. He's like, come back in your Just Blues again, looking good. And I come back the next day. I also called my mentor, who had put a lot of my instructors through training, and immediately he's like, why are you calling me? You should be in Hell Week. I'm like, hey, they dropped me. I don't know what happened. My body kind of stopped working. I don't know what it was. And he's like, oh, damn. Okay. I'm going to help fight for you to get you back in. And so I go back the next day, and he's like, yeah, they don't think you deserve another shot. They saw you being really weak in class and everything. And I'm like, yeah, they only remember me the last couple days when my body was failing with VGE and everything. They didn't see me when I was strong. I go, Mike Gecka thinks I deserve another chance. Master Chief Guile, the mentor, he invited me to go train with the class that just made it, is going through Hell Week. He's going to help train me in the water. He's like, I can see you're not going to quit. We just need to get guys that we need to get you through Hell Week. You're not going to quit. We just need you to be healthy. And he's like, all right, I'm going to talk to more instructors. I come back again. Now we got to talk to some more chiefs and have a conversation. They're like, you know what? Whatever. We'll give you another shot. It goes up through the CO. Mike Gecka sent some master chiefs there to and Mike Gecka was like, he's one of the toughest guys I ever trained, and he deserves another shot. And so I go back, start all the way over again from, you know, ground zero. I go from never failing a single evolution. Now I'm in the next class and I can't pass a single evolution. Like the biggest, one of the
Shit.
worst. I'm like, what happened? I was like, I could run so fast before, my legs still don't work. My nothing works. I'm like doing log PT. I can barely like lift the log over, and I'm just doing buds for like weeks like this. And I start, you know, go through, make it through indoc, which is kind of easy. But now I go into first phase and we do the first boats. And now I went from like, kind of, you know, in the first class, they don't see you when you're strong. They mainly just see the weak guys. Now you know, I fought so hard. A lot of them didn't want me back into training. And now they just see me like being the weakest guy in the entire class out of like 270 people. And I'm like, we first week I fall out on the boat run.
Hold
They're
on.
like,
At this moment, how much doubt do you have yourself? Other than like,
I'm having doubt, but I'm also like, I'm having doubt about making it through like this class and making it through. Maybe I knew I was supposed to be there, but I'm like, my body literally doesn't work. Maybe I have to go, maybe like I won't make it through, and I'll go back and I'll just train a ton of CrossFit or like triathlon type stuff and then go back again. But I'm like, I still believed I'm gonna make it. I just have to find out what's wrong with me. I'm like, because this isn't me. Things were fine before. I'm like, what is this? But I was having serious doubt. I remember thinking too, I'm like, man, if I knew I was gonna make it, it would be a lot easier. But it was tough, dark times, and I had my dreams ripped away, got back in, but all of a sudden I'm like seeing them about to get ripped away again and doubting myself, but also having confidence in myself too. I'm like, I just need to find out what's wrong. So it's the first week of buds, goes kind of horrible. Friday comes, fall out from under, you know, I fail. Yeah, I passed the O course. That's, you can basically walk it when you're good at the techniques. You know, it's a slow time for first phase. I fail the swim. I fail the run. I fall out from under the boats. I have instructors. I'm like, you know, suck on a log PT. Totally miserable. It was more challenging than that first week was more challenging for me than the entire like 7 weeks or 6 weeks I basically did in indoc and buds, the not including the hell week, was more challenging than the whole time there. Even running to the chow hall, you do the bud shuffle, and it was agonizing pain. It was like agonizing to like just do the bud shuffle, and it felt like I had knives in my shins. It felt like I had cramps in my thighs. Everything hurt, my whole body. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Every time I tried to sprint, I would like get out of breath, and my, you know, the connection to like make everything sprint, it like just, my body wouldn't do it. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. But I still had this belief in myself. I just gotta which is where I said, be careful what you wish for. You know, I'm like, right. I wanted doing it was not that bad when I was a great athlete and pretty mentally tough. Now it was the most challenging thing that I had ever done. But there was no way I was ever going to quit and ring the bell and go back. That was one thing. I was like, getting, you know, dropped or whatever is one thing. I was certainly never gonna quit. But I had already gone through that whole week and had all these things like go really wrong. I'm like, quitting. I really knew quitting was never an option. Now, that was one thing I had. I was like, I'm like, I already know I've been through this. I'm never going to quit no matter what happens, sleep deprived, whatever. I'm never going to quit. So that was at least one thing that did help my confidence from the first class. And so now, even though nothing works, So go through the weekend. I get some rest. I hydrate, eat a ton of food. I'm like, I'm going to come back and crush this run. First thing we have might be at like 5 or 6 a.m., 4 mile time to run. And start the first 100 meters. And I'm like running. I'm like, okay, I can go. My legs are working. Run, run. And all of a sudden, after the first 100 meters, everything shut down. Like nothing,
Dang.
legs wouldn't connect. Everyone in my class is just gone. And they all disappear. I'm trying to like run, but it's kind of a shuffle. I got the truck behind me. I mean, actually, this is, I never really thought of it like this, but yeah, having these like buds instructor trucks behind you, yelling at you, making fun of you the whole way is like quite the experience. Yeah. Um,
So things aren't
and
working. They figure out what's not working that second attempt through.
so it's after this where I figure it out. I get to the turnaround point, running back. All my class that I had just gone through half of Hell Week with, they all come flying past me. They start like several minutes behind my class, 270. I'm in 271 now. They all come flying by, and they all knew I was strong. They're like, "Come on, Jeff. Come on, Jeff. You got it. You got it. Come on, come on." I'm like, "Sure." I'm like, and not happening. Second phase pulls up on my right. First phase is on my left. First phase is telling second phase, hey, don't worry about this guy. You're never going to meet him. He's going to be on the Navy ship out there. I'm like, wow, new low point in my life. I'm like, just trying to get to the end. And then they make me do a bunch of like push-ups, hit the surf, push-ups, whatever, kind of, beat me on the beach a while. And then I finish. And they're like, all right, go back. And I'm like, all right, I got to go to medical. Like, I just got destroyed on this run. I need to find out what's wrong, or they're going to like kick me out of here and never let me come back. I already like did so much even to get in this class. Now I cannot perform. I also, the Friday before, after I fell out on the boat, I had a meeting with all 12 instructors basically telling me how weak I was. And I'm like, hey guys, I'm like, something is wrong. And they're like, quit saying that. I'm like, they're like, you better just figure it out and perform. I'm like, crap. So I'm like, come back. And after they literally said all that, I come in last place by 6 minutes. And I fail the run by over 12 minutes. Totally miserable. And maybe not 12. Yeah, maybe like 10 minutes I failed the run by. So I go to medical and I'm like, hey, I'm 20. I'm like, tell them the same thing. I'm not looking for a way out. I need to find out what's wrong with me. I never failed anything before. Like I literally never failed anything in the last class. Now I literally cannot pass anything. I cannot run. Like something's wrong. I've also gone and I've been going to the hospital and getting checked for stress fractures. They're fine. Getting checked for SIPE, no SIPE. I'm like trying to find out I'm like investigating. I'm going to doctors. I'm going to the hospital. I'm getting x-rays. Nothing, they're finding nothing's wrong with me. I'm like casting more doubt into myself, but I'm like, what is wrong? I was fine before. And he's like, sounds like you got this thing, rhabdomyolysis. It's pretty, kind of rare and hard to get, but like you literally went from Hell Week into the next class. Your body never got to recover. We're going to send you for blood work to get labs done. During this, the class is doing boat sprints. They're called like drag races, having to sprint all over. And I missed that. So the instructors are wanting to like run me into the ground and I'm gone getting like lab work done. So I come back from there and it takes a little bit to get the labs. So I meet them at the pool and they flip out. They take my helmet, they smash it, they yell at me, but at least there we're just doing like, they just tie us up, arms and feet together in the pool, and you have to kind of swim around. It's at least not very physical. It's more technique and mental. So we do a bunch of like drown proofing training. It's kind of a break and easy,
That's
drowning
sick. That's sick how you
drowning
just
for
said
2
that.
hours. drowning for 2 hours.
That's an easy thing.
It's,
Got it.
you know, so we go back, and then we have our class mentor is talking to us. He's one of the main people from Active Valor. Amazing, amazing guy. Had won like SEAL of the Year and made chief from that and everything. And he was the one that kept telling me, Gum, you better perform. Gum, you better perform. And then the doctor, literally while he's like briefing us, we got like, 200 some people. The doctor walks in, is like, hey, Jeff has a thing called rhabdomyolysis, and he can't do anything else like this class. He's getting rolled. And he's like, he like speaks to him, the whole class. Gum, you got something I never heard of before, rhabdomyolysis. And I'm like, actually have it? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, thank God. I'm like, I think to myself, all right, I'm not a pussy. Like, thank God, thank God. And we go out, and yeah, just, I don't know if I went to the medical then, or I see another doctor the next day, and he's like, all right, you're going on convalescent leave, which is like a medical leave. I went home for 2 weeks. One of the instructors from Indoc actually saw me, and he was like, I saw you perform. You're on convalescent leave now for some made up thing. This guy doesn't deserve it. Blah, blah, blah. Yelled it, like just reamed me out. I'm like, my life sucks. But I go back, my mom's like all worried about me. Because I'm all like kind of puffy. I had like taken on a bunch of water weight, different things, had rhabdo. My blood had been toxic for like 2 months, and finally rest, hydration. My like kidneys and liver filter out all the toxic waste. I go back. They took my blood again. It was much better. They didn't, but I was still like feeling it in my legs. They kind of had me on light duty. My class is continuing through first phase. There's a PTRR. It's called like physical training, rest and recuperation or something. And they had me do it. Maybe I was like light duty for a week following the class around. Then it was a little bit of upper body, kind of easing back into it. Maybe I was doing some O course or some push-ups here and there. Maybe they had me no lower extremity because my legs were what was like really hurting. And then maybe it was like 3 or 4 weeks where I was like light. They eased me back into it. All of a sudden, I'd like, jog a little bit here and there, but it hurt. All of a sudden, I could run like the wind again. And I was like faster than even before. And I was so used to doing everything with my body not working. Now my mind and body were just strong because I never got out of shape. I was still like doing stuff the whole time. The toxic blood was not letting my body like perform. And all of a sudden I could fly like the wind running. I was strong as hell. I had already done all the technical things that were kind of, I learned the drown proofing. I learned the knot tying. I learned the 50-meter underwater swim, things I wasn't like a great swimmer before. I had become a better and better swimmer. So now I'm just like, it was like the ultimate buds prep doing, first phase with your body not working and getting better at the technical things I wasn't that great at in the beginning, but still managed to pass. And all of a sudden they didn't make me do Indoc. I did just workouts with the brown shirt rollbacks, and Ty Woods was my instructor. And he's like the hero of Benghazi. If you saw the movie 13 Hours, it's like based off of him and what he did there. And he was just awesome. We didn't mess around with any of the like, what you call fuck games or whatever. He was just cool, working out, doing all this stuff. I got crazy strong, got faster and stronger than I've probably ever been in my life. And then I think we had to do like maybe a swim and run an O course to go into first. I dominate them and go into first phase. We do the first run and I come across the finish line. The first timed run. I literally come across the finish line in the top 10 out of like 200 some people, stare at all the instructors as I come across like, look who's back, look who's
Right.
back, and just stare at them. And then I'm used to doing these surf tortures in like February and March when it's freezing and, you know, people are passing out unconscious next to me. Now I'm doing it in July and August. I'm just like, not one shiver. They'd come around, be look, people are, you know, just shaking like crazy, falling over. Even from that, because you do longer surf tortures in the summer, and I'm just like, not one shiver. Don't even gonna see you shiver one time. I'll just say it to myself. And I'd call myself. I'd go, not one shiver, pussy, and I'd call myself a pussy, and just basically flex as we're doing all that. And yeah, it took 12 minutes off my 4 mile time to run. Me and the strongest guys would always get together. You like count off, and the way they do the height lines, it'd be like 1 through 6 would be boat crew 1, 1 through 6, the next 6 would be boat crew 2. Then maybe it'd be 7 people for the next one. Whenever you'd like lose someone, they would take from the taller boat crews first. I usually be like boat crew 2 or 3. I ended up in 1 a little bit during Hell Week, but me and the rollbacks, the strongest guys, would get together and be like, we're position ourselves, count them off, be like, all right, this is our boat crew. When you're like a rollback, you kind of can do that. And so we'd win like every log PT, every boat. We knew how to. A lot of it is teamwork. So we had worked together already. We knew how to do the techniques and everything. And yeah, so we would get. I remember even in Hell Week, Ty Woods yelling at my boat crew, going, "Why does this boat crew keep winning?" I'd be like, "Because we got rhabdo." All the instructors would look at me like I'm crazy. And then that mentor who had vouched for me and kind of said, yeah, he let me be the only white shirt to go and do the pool training on the weekend with the class that had made it through. He'd be like motivating us. Master Chief Gowdy had spoke to us about stoicism and philosophy and delayed gratification, all these really important tools that you could use when you were feeling low. And I'd be like, man, Master Chief, Hell Week's easy when you don't have rhabdo. And
Right.
he'd be like laughing. And then we're doing like paddle around the world on Thursday. And that original senior chief who had kind of pushed for me originally to get back in and went and talked to all the instructors. He's like, damn, Gum, good thing we got you back in, right? I'd be like, yes, thank you so much for getting me back in. And go, shut the F up. I'm
Right.
like, all right, and just keep doing everything. I'm like, man, and I basically finished Hell Week. I call my mom and sister. They're in like the car together. They're like yelling. They're so happy. My friends from the other classes, they had just finished, like one had just finished a long dive. I think the other guys were, I don't know if they were in the island. They were probably on the island, but other brown shirt rollbacks I was friends with, everyone you got pizza waiting for you, Gatorades, all this stuff. Everybody kind of came to my room. We had a party together. It was just like probably one of the best days of my life. This was the other thing. I said like how base tour had crushed me like Monday night in the first class, and I was falling out from the boat. My legs were just cramping the whole time. Totally miserable. I remember finishing it. It's now Tuesday morning of this class, and my boat had just been like winning lots of races. I felt normal. I felt like my normal athletic self. Tuesday morning, I could sprint. I could still sprint. I mean, Friday I could still sprint. But I finished there, and I just felt so good and healthy. I'm walking through. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be a Navy SEAL. And I just had like some tears of like joy kind of come. I didn't make a sound, but it's like had some like emotional like tear come down my eye. I'm like, wow, I'm gonna be a Navy SEAL. Nothing is gonna stop me. Nothing's gonna stop me now. And
Man.
was feeling good. So, but like I said, the lesson: be careful what you wish for,
Sure.
because you might get it. I wanted the challenge. I wanted to, have the hardest like thing. But what I thought was this horrible thing to happen to me when it was happening ended up being like the greatest gift I ever received. Being a good, strong, mentally tough athlete, yeah, buds is still hard, still challenging, still sucks, whatever. But I wouldn't have been challenged to my core the way I was there, having my dreams literally ripped away and needing to rely on so many things that are more than physical, being able to rely on like my communication skills with my instructors, winning others over, like having that achievement, like not accept what was going, not accept what they told me was going to be my path. The strategy for being able to get back, all these things I actually learned in like a strength finder thing when I was getting out of the Navy, that the Honor Foundation put me through. Learned what my strengths were, and I'm like, wow, these strengths like are what got me back in. It was a lot more than just being like a mentally tough athlete. And it ended up being the greatest gift for everything I can apply to all the challenges that come as a business owner and entrepreneur. Anytime something's challenging, I think back to what I went through in Hell Week, having my dreams ripped away, and I'm like, hey, you can persevere through this. This is nothing compared to what you've been through.
That's quite the story, man. And what a journey. I felt like I lived it with you just in this few minutes you're talking, and it wasn't just a few minutes. I know before when we had our phone call to even set this conversation up, we talked about what's the philosophy and what are we trying to build here with Athlete Builder, and I just see all these components, that you just illustrated. You start with your mindset. Well, there's the I'm not going to quit thing, but then there's the doubt, one of those enemies of your mindset that's coming in, and you kept suppressing that moving forward. Then you kept building confidence, and I always tell people confidence comes from reps. So you have a hard rep, you're stronger mentally, physically. Well, then you have a hang on literally for your life, because you said, I'll give back all my money. I would rather die than not make it through. I'm having all my dreams ripped away. You're at the bottom. Like, I'm at the bottom here, a new low, you said. And then you come back and you start inching your way and you start building confidence. Well, shoot, I did this, right? And then when you're like, well, I can get through the O course. You can actually walk through it, and it's not really that hard physically if you have the technique and you know what you're doing. Drown proofing, that's a pretty easy thing. Whereas people like David Goggins or even me, we'd be like, oh my God, I'm fucking terrified of that shit. But yeah, if you have the technique, if you have the knowledge of how to be an athlete here, you can win when other things aren't working. And then it's like, well, then I also have to be able to communicate, not just with my teammates and try to handle this surf portage on your boat, but I got to talk to my mentor and these other folks and have them advocate for me, these leadership team. So I have to win that route to become this high level, I call it, pro level, statue level athlete. And you're having to win on a different front. That's not mindset. That's not your confidence. That's not your knowledge of how to tie a knot underwater. That's how you communicate with folks. Then there's the physical training that, hey, I'm going to do all this stuff in advance. I'm going to work with Mike Getka and Ty. I can't remember what his last name.
Ty Woods.
Ty Woods. I'm like, all right, so they're going to physically.
And Master Chief Guiled.
Yeah. Right. So they're going to get me as prepared as I can. And even today in 2024, you can take a lot of courses that prepare you before you even enlist in the Navy that would help you prepare for buds. You can learn how to be scuba trained. You can learn how to jump out of airplanes. You can go to Mark Devine's SEAL Fit course and other folks' courses, right? You can prepare more and more and more so that when you get there, you're like, well, shit, I'm kind of ready. Then you realize that I need to be taking in 2,000 calories a meal 4 times a day during Hell Week just to stay alive. And how do you recover? And you said, hey, well, I used to be a distance runner, but running through that sand, completely different animal. Since I learned how to roll up my IT bands and recover, I needed that piece. If I can't win that route, then I can't run. So all that comes in. And if you inch along in every one of those pieces, you just lived out the philosophy that we're preaching to everybody. Just keep pushing all these little areas and all 6 of those things. And then you're Navy SEAL at the end. Shit. That's a win, right?
Yeah.
Big win. That's amazing.
Yeah. I'll tell you actually another tool I learned from that Master Chief Guile that would speak to us about stoicism and philosophy. and everything, he talked about monkey mind. And monkey mind, people would say all the time, oh, do you think, people asked me, countless times, did you ever think about quitting? You know, and this gave me like the perfect answer, because when that thought would ever pop in my mind, he he explained it like this. When monkey mind is, you're walking down the road and you have some horrible thought pop in your mind, and you're just like, it's like this primitive part of your brain, and you immediately say, oh, what was that, like, get out of my head, like, what, like, and so that's who you really are. You're not your first thought. Random things can just come in your mind no matter how horrible they are. But your second thought, oh, what was that? Like, freaking weird. Your third thought, like your thought about the thought, that's who you really are. So when you'd be doing something, a lot of times it was just an easy thing. All right, drop down 25 push-ups. Oh, I don't feel like doing this. I want to quit. Because it's just thrown in your face all day long. Like, quit, quit, quit. Here's the bell. Here's the bell. Ring it. Like, so of course you're gonna think, but then you say, my next thought would be, shut the F up, like, shut, like, and call myself a name, like a weak name or whatever. And so it's like, that's who you really, so I never had a true thought about quitting, but I'd have these little random things all the time that you never take serious. My second thought, my third thought, my thought about the thought is who you really are. None of them were ever a genuine thought about quitting. They were all about, yeah. So that was a great tool. Anytime I had something, I'm like, that's not who I am. It's my next one. So I never had a real thought about quitting. But how many times did I say, oh, ring the bell, it'd be easier? Like, yeah, probably 10,000,
Sure.
But when you're doing the harder things, it doesn't even, when you're thinking, you're just like, you're grinding. You're not thinking about quitting then. It's not a real option. It's almost more when it's the easy stuff.
We have some downtime in that moment, and then some other fears can pop in. So when you're in the middle of pain and suffering, you're handling it. You're handling what you were just afraid of. And it's usually the fears that are kind of crippling. It's, this hasn't happened yet. I've been suffering here for 10 minutes. How am I going to handle 10 hours? You're worried about this future thing, right? Or this event. Once you're in the event, you're like, well, shit, I'm here. I'm doing all right. I'm not dying. I'm not drowning. I'm not getting shot in the face, right? So, the equation is, you're worried about the outcome. You're stressing about the outcome. But the equation is, event, that first thought that you had, plus reaction equals outcome. It's not event equals outcome. I'm up high on this fast rope and then I'm worried about the outcome. No, it's how do I react? I had this first thought about quitting and ringing the bell. My reaction thought dictated the outcome. I didn't ring the bell. I chose not to. It's cold outside. I don't feel like getting in the car and going to the gym at 6 a.m. I decided to get up and go. The outcome is that I'm there, right? You start worrying 10 days down the road, or how do I handle 5.5 days of no sleep during Hell Week? And what the main one of, I don't want to put words in anyone else's mouth, but what I can surmise is that one of the main lessons is you should just give a shit about the next step in front of you. And
that's one of the biggest things.
And get through that. If it's run from here to the chow hall, you just give a shit about running to the chow hall and then sitting down with food and then eating food and then getting up and putting, that way you have tremendous focus and you're not all over the place. Yeah. So
there's times you're focused on surviving. When I had rhabdo, it was like survive mode. My thighs are cramping. I can't stay under the boat. I'm trying to do everything I can to just like keep one foot in front of me, keep the instructors like from yelling at me and pushing me and everything else. And then there's moments where you're like, when I was in the 272 class and I could dominate everything and I could pass everything and I was with the strongest guys, when you're just focused on like winning and thriving, you're not focused on surviving. You're literally having fun. You're like, sweet, I'm getting paid to work out on the beach with my friends, having fun, dominating. It's like sport. It's like sports again. You're literally dominating. You're like getting like, you're getting positive reinforcement. It pays to be a winner. You win this race, you get to rest. The next guys all have to go again. Now you're rested. You just put the hell out, win again, win over and over and over. You're not thinking about surviving. You're not thinking about one foot in front of the other. You're trying to dominate. And when you have that kind of mindset, buds is easy. And that's kind of the mindset I had when I was healthy. I had been through all the worst stuff in the world. I knew there was nothing they could do to make me quit. I had fun in the next class. I'll say the only time I was a little nervous in 272 was like leading up to Hell Week, because Hell Week had crushed me so bad, having VGE, getting rhabdo, getting like kind of beat up in it. And I was a little nervous that it could happen again. But the whole time, my legs and everything was just dominating. It was kind of funny. I had friends, I was a little scared of getting cramps and things. So I had friends who had, they had failed the pistol qual in third phase, and they were working. It's like guys who had been through Hell Week help work Hell Week for you. So they'd be in the chow hall. They'd be the ones giving you your food. My buddy would be sticking potassium pills in my mashed potatoes in the lunch line. So I'm like getting extra potassium and magnesium, trying to make sure I don't get cramps. Other people would get water. He'd give me Gatorade in my canteen, and then we'd get MREs to eat out at the beach at times, and he'd have like Snicker bars in my MREs. It was freaking hysterical. I'd be like, man, I'm living like a king out here, right? Getting this extra stuff from my buddy.
That's awesome.
Kind of funny.
A lot of lessons. That's a great time. Jeff, when you're lifting, I know you have a small gym at your place. You're always doing things that are physical. You've been physical all over the world. And we could keep going for hours and hours, but I'm sure don't have all the time. But if you're training and you're lifting, what do you listen to?
So I put on a lot of 80s rock, Motley Crue, different stuff like that. That's what can fire me up.
Gotcha. What's a bucket list adventure you haven't done yet?
So I want to go to Thailand and train some Muay Thai over there. I love Thai food as well, and I hear it's just a really cool place to visit. So I think it'd be amazing to go for like 3 or 4 weeks, train Muay Thai, enjoy the food, enjoy like the culture and everything, see another part of the world I haven't been. I've been to Brazil many times with the Gracie family, so it's almost like the balance to that. It's kind of like jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai for the ground and the stand-up. So I'd love to go do that as well.
That'd be awesome. What's your favorite sports movie?
Let me see. My favorite sports movie was
what's one that comes to mind?
Yeah. Oh, growing up, the Mighty Ducks were kind of my favorite one. I wasn't a hockey player, but I just loved that movie. Was kind of really fun. And then I kind of liked the hockey team because they came from that too. I never been to one of their games, but yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Growing up, that was.
So is your favorite sport though MMA, because you work a lot with that?
Yeah, my favorite sport is MMA, UFC, all kind of combat sports. Super into. I always watch the wrestling. I'm a big Ohio State wrestling fan because my friend Tom Ryan is the coach, and he's a incredible coach and guy. And then so from him, I became friends with a bunch of the athletes. Sammy Sasso's from my hometown, kind of where my sister lives now. Nick Feldman, awesome guy, went through a serious injury, and he was one of the top wrestlers in the country and had to get a neck fusion his freshman year. Dang. And then came back, was an All-American. I think he placed like 4th or 5th as a freshman, wrestling a bunch of seniors and stuff. That's a big difference as a 19 to 22, 23, and he still had an amazing year coming back from an injury like that. So another story of perseverance there.
How about your favorite book?
the Endurance, Shackleton's Incredible Voyage. It's one of my favorite books.
The what? The Endurance?
Yeah, the Endurance. So Shackleton was this adventurer, and he had was trying to be the first person to go across Antarctica, and he was one of the first to like sail there. I want to say it was like 1910 or something like that. But they thought they were dead for like a year and a half. They had gotten stuck in the crushed ice, and they all took like they had nothing to do, so they all kind of journaled the whole time. So there's like incredible records of their journey. They got stuck in the ice, floated for a long time. Eventually, the boat was crushed, and they took the lifeboats and they sailed with them all the way to Elephant Island, and then almost all the guys stayed there, while Shackleton, his like main navigator, and like another guy sailed all the way to South Georgia, and they ended up on the opposite side of the island where they were supposed to end up, and they climbed through the mountains there. Professional climbers with equipment couldn't replicate it. Like
Dang.
when they went back in the 50s or something, try to recreate what they did. They climbed through there, ended up not a single person died on this incredible voyage. And the name is just very fitting, the Endurance. Going through 40-foot seas, navigating by the stars, just crazy stuff. Having Antarctica water landing on you constantly.
That's
But they were
amazing.
like, I gotta get back to my men. I gotta save my men. If we don't make it, they're all gonna die and perish, and no one's gonna know about them. So I love the
Favorite
story.
superhero or villain in anything?
So I was kind of obsessed with the Ninja Turtles when I was a little kid. So Raphael was my favorite, and probably Splinter was my villain. I'd always wanted to. I'd actually
What color
when
was
I was
Raphael?
real little, he had
He had
the
a
red
size.
mask. Yeah, the red mask with the size, and I would kind of tell my mom, why didn't you name me Raphael? I was supposed to be a Ninja Turtle. Like,
Because you're not an Italian artist.
yeah, yeah.
um, favorite lift?
So the squat, the belt squat is my
Yeah.
favorite one now because of um, just it. You know, I can get a great workout with my legs without putting the pressure and everything on my spine. Although I I go now and do whenever I'm back in Pennsylvania, I go to Iron Core Gym. The owner of it, Chris Hicks, was one of the guys I powerlifted with growing up. And yeah, he has like it's like 10 to 15 guys come in every Saturday and do all different kinds of like bench with chains, bench with bands, bench with
Hmm.
all kinds of crazy bars. Uh, and so yeah, going back and doing that is probably doing the bench class is probably my favorite. But otherwise, if I'm not like in that awesome community doing it, then the belt squat is my favorite.
That's awesome. You can do so much in the belt squat machine. A lot of the fighters, you can grapple while one person is tied into the machine. You're not taking anybody to the floor because you're going to get really hurt that way. But you can,
Mm.
while your hips are tied up with the belt, you can still work upper body. Favorite quote?
That's super interesting. Yeah, one of the strength coaches from Ohio State. I was doing a different workout with him, and he was having me before I would do the squats. I would just walk and march on the squat thing, and
For
then I
sure.
would go into my squat after, and it kind of yeah it does a lot of that
Oh
functional
yeah.
stuff.
You can do good mornings. You can still have a bar there and do deadlifts, but you load up your hips also. There's you can do thrusters while your hips are engaged with the belt. The
Yeah.
marches, you can march while you're holding kettlebells in the front rack. There's a million things. Favorite quote?
The secret to happiness is freedom, and the secret to freedom is courage. That was written by Thucydides, thousands of years ago, the Greek philosopher. And it a lot of people, you live in this a lot of people we live in this bubble in America, and we think, you know, got all these first world problems, but and they're just, yeah, away from all this evil and things that people want to do to you. But there was a lot of courage that gave us our freedom, that gave us our happiness here. And it's you really can't have one without the other.
That's awesome.
It also applies a lot to my brand, Sunga Life. I, talk about the happiness and the freedom, and it's the courage that allowed us to have that.
Awesome. Where can we find you?
So on social media, main one I use is Instagram at Jeff Gum, at Sunga Life, Sunga.life. And then I have some other companies. I'm going to be running retreats at my new shooting range, where we're going to train people in the water, pistol, rifle, medical training, kind of some bud style workouts. It's called Trident Academy on social media. It's tridentacademy.us. That's a website as well. And then I built a private member shooting range with some other rangers, SEALs, different special ops guys and business guys. And yeah, so we're going to be giving a lot of training out. It's on like a 16-acre facility. We're going to also, that's opening this month. And then next we're going to build a pool where we can put people through a lot of different underwater weight training and stuff as well.
Awesome, man. Jeff, thank you for your service. Thank you for your impact while you were enlisted, and thank you for your impact once you've been out. You just keep pushing mentally, physically, and you consistently give back with the number of foundations you're involved with, your own businesses, and it's really just to make people better so they can become the best version of yourselves. And it's one of the reasons that we wanted you on the show, because that aligns with what we're trying to do with athletes. And so we're blessed with the gift of having you on. So, man, Jeff, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was really cool talking about my upbringing and training when I was young. That kind of I don't talk about very often, but it kind of set the mold for me to be able to go in and do everything else I did in my life.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much, Jeff.
All right, thank you, Jim. Have a great one.
Yeah, you too.